rain came down and the faith stood tall. Now I see the fruit.
Good everything. It is Wednesday, the 9th of October 2024. It's about noon and we are about 73 degrees. So I figured I would do a what's what in this area today. So when I started planting in this area, we had some mint, some celery. I planted some nasturtiums, which you could see have taken over my cinder block planters. We had here Scotch bonnet peppers, jalapenos, and chilies, which did awesome this year. I had some June bearing and some ever bearing strawberries planted in these two planters. These have started to flower once again. And I had one point had some elephant garlic in a different pot, which I have since uprooted and planted them here. There's about 3 bulbs in here. When I uprooted them, they weren't that big, so we'll see what they do at a later date. This is the status of my elderberry and mulberry cuttings. In this pot I have some horseradish. This is a first year growth for me. And in this spot I had some blackberry that I started from seed. So basically I would buy store-bought blackberries, and if they were getting ready to turn or something like that, I would put the seeds in here, and so far they have sprouted. So we'll see what they do next season. Now in this area I have garlic, store-bought. I planted it, then I uppot them to see if they had grown in size, because they were wilting, which told me it was time to harvest. But they doubled in size, but they didn't have many corms on them, so I replanted them, spreading them out a bit more. We're going to leave them in there over the winter. I don't know, my lemongrass, this is one of 3 plants that I managed to, I think I bought 2 and separated them into 3. And this one has more grass than lemon, but we'll see what it does. I have here ginger. That broke off. So ginger in these 3 pots, and then in these 2 back pots we have turmeric. They seem to be doing well, based on what I'm seeing as far as harvest. It probably will not be harvested this season. Now in this area I had some pineapple crowns, store-bought pineapple, planted the crowns. This one seemed to be doing much better than the one I have here, but that's another, the majority of this stuff is going to go into a unheated garage, so we'll bring them out next season, see what they do. And this is my other horseradish plant that's in better shape than the one over there. In these bags I have onions, yellow onions, red onions, and white onions. I did harvest some earlier this season. Didn't cure them as they were instructed to do, so I end up throwing away some that was harvested. But these seem to be on their second leg and doing much better. They have increased in size, so we'll see what, if anything, turns out to be harvestable in this area. As you can see, my nasturtiums and marigolds have taken over. I had some herbs planted in this general area. I couldn't tell you now what they were, but the flowers have taken over in this area. Now behind me here we have the California Wonder bell pepper, doing good. I have a mysterious pepper here that's doing well as also. You might see onion seeds around this area from when I had onion blossoms that just dropped their seeds, and there's where they landed. In some of these spots I also have store-bought green onions that was planted as basically companion planting in these tire beds. This is my fish pepper. Harvested some last week and it looks like it's ready to be harvested again. This was my bed for my Crayola cellar. Didn't germinate, and I was unsuccessful with this plant specifically. Now in this bed, I started out in quadrants, and I have volunteer tomatoes in here that I did not, that came back from last season, I should say. It's not anything that I replanted, but I do have okra plants, 2 that came up. I think I planted at least 6, only 2 came up, and I did not manage to harvest any okras edible. I've managed to harvest about 6 to 8 that will be collected most likely for seeds. As you can see, I still have some tomatoes. So we had okra at one point in this bed. I had Fox right there sleeping. Volunteer ground cherry in this area as well. And I did sow some carrots in this area, and this was the slurry method. They did well. I harvested a bunch of tomatoes yesterday that I'm getting ready to box up and take to the pantry. This area we had spinach. It was I want to say a New Zealand version. It didn't do well, so I was unsuccessful with that. And back in this area on this quadrant, I had eggplants. Now I planted, I want to say 3 plants, only 1 came up, and it's fruiting again, and it has some blossoms on it. So I've harvested 2 eggplants so far. This will be the 3rd, and if this one survives, will be the 4th. In this quadrant, I had also originally planted cabbage, which was also unsuccessful. In this bed, I am overrun by ground cherries, but originally I had radishes, beets, which did okay. I had tear stacker here that I planted pinto beans and black beans. It fell over, so I ended up moving it to this quadrant, which had lettuce, and as you can see, I have some beans still going. These are some dry pods that can be harvested, but this is basically black beans and pinto beans in this quadrant. Over here I had carrots that were planted using the seed tape method, and they did okay. I mean, I had some gigantic misshapen ones, but it was an effort that I tried, and you win some, you lose some. So that's what was planted in this quadrant. Got overtaken or overran by ground cherries. I left some beets here to go to seed, but it may or may not do so, because it's basically been covered by anything. I have a few more over there. I'll harvest them soon. In this bed, I got some beefsteak tomatoes that I managed to salvage from that bed. Put them over here. As you could tell, these supports are struggling, but I did get a lot of tomatoes from here. This bed had my San Marzano tomatoes, and they continue to do well. Next year, I'm thinking these 2 beds will remain tomatoes. Everything else has to go. In this bed, I had cucumbers. I'd say I was successful with them. I got decent amount, good sizes, so I was happy with that. In this area, I had sesame seeds that have paws in them, looking like they're gonna get to the dry out stage soon. I might have to cut them because they're popping open. And I had some marigold that has taken over, but I also have some peanut plants here that I haven't yet harvested. Now in this bed, I have a total of 7 sweet potatoes. Haven't yet been harvested. Look like they're coming up on time to do so, so I look forward to see what's in here. I also had some regular potatoes. I did plant regular potatoes in about 10 or 15 bags I had over there. Wasn't as successful as I would like, but enough to do a few meals, so I was happy about that. Various varieties, Yukon, I'll put the rest, I don't remember the name, but I'll put the rest on the screen. Now in this area, what I have opted to do was I planted Brussels sprouts in a row, mustard greens, unsuccessful. This is supposed to be a Brussels sprout, but I haven't seen anything. Mustard greens went to seed, so I ended up harvesting some of those seeds, and I think I planted turnip greens instead. This is what's right there. I planted some dill. That's what's remaining. I have in this row some kale. Swiss chard did okay. Collard greens did okay. And in this I had a volunteer sugar snap peas that I harvested from, which I was happy about. The rest of the peas did not do anything, so I planted an extra mustard greens. I've been harvesting from that. Now in this row I had bush beans along with the pole beans, and I harvested a great deal, so that was a success. I have some coriander, and in this pot I want to say, and have I harvested seeds? I may not have, not sure. But in this area we had some sage, which has gone to seed, and some basil, which I harvested and is now growing back. I had broccoli, unsuccessful, majority of that bolted. And then I had cauliflower, which this is a cauliflower, but I haven't seen anything form, so I would say unsuccessful with that as well. And I ended up planting some tomatoes that I transplanted from over there in this area, and that has done well also. Alright, so in this pot here, this single pot, I had thyme, but nothing came up. And I did some store-bought green onions to border this bed to help with pest control. And they did fine as well. So I'm happy about that. So I planted my yams here. Do I expect to harvest this year? No. I had planted some arugula in those two blue pots. I ended up discarding them because they were infested with worms. And I just repurposed the soil here. And as you can see, they're starting to trellis up this old apple tree, and look forward to seeing what they possibly will do next year. Now in this first one had a honeyberry plant that you could see remnants of. The marigolds just took over and never saw anything of the honeyberry, and it was actually in its third season, I would say, so not a bit disappointed with that. In this I had York elderberry, also going into its third season, possibly even fourth. Didn't survive, so I ended up planting my goji berries in this pot, and it's been doing awesome in this area. Now in this pot I had another berry plant in here. I don't recall which, but it died, so I put my fig plant in here. I have 4 figs, 3 of which have darkened up but hadn't yet dropped in the bag, and when I wiggle at them, the 4th one is still green. when I wiggle at them, they're still a little taut, so I'm gonna let them drop on their own. But depending on how delicious these figs are is how I'll be happy or not. Now over here I have my Johansta berry, and I managed to get maybe 6 berries from it this year. It's in season 3 or 4 as well. And below it I have peanuts that also will be harvested soon, I hope. But Johansta, some reason I was shedding leaves, but you could see the buds on it, so I'm good with that. In this bed we had raspberries. The plant has grown, however I have not seen any fruit on it, so we'll see what it does next season. It also has some peanut plants in it that will be harvested this year. Now, in these pots I had asparagus, 2 different varieties. One I want to say was Mary Jane, I don't recall the other one. And asparagus just did its thing. Obviously nothing salvageable to eat this first season, but we will see what it does next year. I'm waiting for it to die back, and then I'm gonna put some more soil in these pots, and hopefully next year, year 2, we're gonna get some asparagus to try. Okay, so we attempted to do a grape orchard this year. We did Catawba, Concord, and Niagara grapes. The base vines itself seem to have died, but there's some possibilities from what I see based on some things in which the root was placed that it may do something next year. So we will see if we get any grapevines next season. Now in this bed that I'm standing in, we had zucchini, we had crookneck squash, we had yellow squash, we had acorn squash, butternut squash, summer squash, winter squash, watermelon, and cantaloupe. And I would say the harvest from this area was a success, so I'm happy about it. We're going to change up some things next season, and we'll see what happens. So now on to the orchard. This is my Bartlett plum. Didn't see anything happen there. The Burbank. Didn't see anything happen there. Kefir pear, same, nothing to report. However, this one is sprouted from the base. The Stella didn't grow, nor did it put out any buds, so we shall see. And the Hale Haven peach is doing well. However, his sister plant, I haven't seen anything happening over here. At one point I had catnip sown in this tire for socks. However, the marigolds took over. I've never seen socks in this area, so it may not have worked. Okay, so it's now 5 p.m. I am back out here. Managed to get the tomatoes situated for tomorrow. So a few things that are new to me that I planted were the sweet potatoes, the turnip greens, the mustard greens, Brussels sprouts, and I don't believe I planted cauliflower before, so those were all new to me. Was not as successful as I would have liked because a lot of the stuff bolted. We had some cold weather, then a week where it just was straight 100s, so that might have been the cause of that, but I tried and I will try again next season. So I'm going to get the plastic back on these cuttings, and thanks for stopping by. Trust everyone had a blessed day, an awesome week, great weekend, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.